In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a weekly planner using Google Sheets. So I did already record this tutorial previously, and this was the finished product that we made. The audio worked perfectly fine for me, but I have had some comments saying that it was a bit quiet, so I am re-recording the tutorial. So to use Google Sheets, you will need a Google account. I have Gmail, so I already have a Google account. So if you don't use Gmail, you'll need to create one. After you do that, if you go to Google Sheets and then click on this button here, if you go to Google Sheets, you'll be able to create a blank spreadsheet like this, and then we can get started designing. So I'm going to just recreate this same one that I did previously. The reason being is because I showed various elements that you can use for different printables. For example, I've got a checklist on the weekly spread, but you could just use this to create an entire checklist printable. We've got the hourly. You could do lined writing space, just like line notes pages if you want to. So I'm going to just recreate this one because it's got all the elements that you could use for other printables, not just a weekly planner. I do also have a tutorial on how to do a monthly calendar in Google Sheets, and I'll include the link below for that. It is quite similar as well. So once you start doing a few of these, you'll see, okay, if I just do a few minor tweaks, then I can make a whole new printable using the same kind of method. Right, so first things first, I'm going to leave the first column free because that's where I'm going to put my hourly time slots, and I'm going to start over the top here. I need the 7 days of the week. I like to start my week on a Monday so that my Saturday and Sunday are right next to each other in adjoining columns. So I'm not looking at like Saturday here and then Sunday for the next is over here. It's a bit scattery for me. I much prefer if it's together. Saturday, Sunday. You can just abbreviate it and just type MON if you want instead of the whole days of the week. Now I'm going to left click and drag because I want all of these to be in bold, and I'm going to increase the font size. Let's go say 14. And now there's no real set font size that you have to use, but for me I would recommend no bigger than font size 14 when you print, otherwise it can just get too big. But again, depends on the size of your handwriting. The other good thing about using Google Sheets is that you can actually just keep this saved on your computer and update it as you go. You just type whatever you want, and you can increase your your row width by just dragging that down if you need to fit more text in. So if you had your class timetable for school, for example, you could populate that with all your subjects, make a copy, right click and then duplicate, and then you can just change it for the following weeks with all your plans, and you've still got your original timetable there. So if you want to keep it and do digital planning instead of printing it, you can do that as well. So at the moment, my days of the week, the names are a bit cut off, so I'm going to increase my column width. So to do that, I'm just going to left click and then, up the top here, when you see this goes like dark blue, it's a lot easier to just do it than to talk while I'm doing it. So just left click and drag, and then you can select them all at once. And the reason I've done that is because now when I left click and drag the column width out, it will increase the width of every single day of the week by the same amount. So instead of me going like this, okay, Wednesday and then Thursday, and trying to remember what the column width was and what it looks like, if you just do it all at once, it's a lot quicker. So Wednesday is the longest day of the week, so I'm using that as my benchmark. Now the text is currently going to the left of the box, which I don't like. I like my text to be centered, so we can do that here. If you have used Microsoft Excel before, you're going to see a lot of similarities in the tools. So if you don't want to keep paying for your Microsoft Excel subscription or buy it outright, Google Sheets is a free alternative which has pretty much the same menus. They're just sometimes compressed. So for example, in format, you've got all these pop-out menus. It can be a little bit more clunky to use, but generally all the tools that you would need that you've already got in Microsoft Excel are here in Google Sheets as well, and this one's free, so you can still use it and do the same things. Okay, down the side here, I'm going to add my times, so you could start at whatever time that you want. I'm going to assume this is going to be like a study workday maybe planner, so let's just go half hourly. You can put in as many as you want. Maybe you know that you're not going to do anything during your lunch break, so you can just skip over 12 o'clock and jump straight to maybe 1:30, whatever you want to do. So you get the idea. I won't make you watch me type them. I have a thing where I prefer all of my headings to be in bold. So I'm going to click this column, and now I've got that whole column A selected. So when I click bold, anything that I've already typed in there and anything I typed down here is already going to be in bold. Up to you if you want to do that or not. I prefer to, and I'm going to do the same thing with my font size as well. I think it just makes it quicker to just select the whole column and then change the text all at once. And okay, I've typed something here, now I need to change the size of that. I've typed something else, do it again. It just gets really time consuming. So now that I have my times, I'm going to do a meals box down here. And I'm also going to do a to-do section down here as well, just like we did on the previous example. And up the top, I'm going to have a week of text. I will show you how to do a bit more of a decorative header, like title box if you want to, but I'll do that a bit later on. Okay, so at the moment, this isn't really making much sense. We need to add a border, and then it becomes a lot more clear about what's where, and just borders make it look a lot nicer. And also when you print this out, even though there's like this border showing on Google Sheets, it won't actually print. So you need to add the border if you want it to appear on your printable. So if you can do that by this borders tool here, click that one, it will add it for you. You can change the border color, as you saw here. There's all these different themes in Google Sheets, which is something a bit different. Well, you can do it in Microsoft Excel, but where they have it in this menu in Google Sheets is different to in Excel. So anyway, in here you can pick your font style, you can change all your colors. I've got these default ones. This is the current theme. Or you can change it and choose all these different color themes as well. So if I click this one, for example, it's going to automatically update it to whatever was in that theme, as in the font style. You probably noticed the font changed. And also once you start adding colors as well in here, so I don't actually mind that color scheme, I'm going to go with that and click done. Just close out of that for now. Getting back to our borders, you can change the thickness, so it's very thin at the moment, or you can go a bit thicker. Should be updating. Why is it not updating? Oh, there we go. So you need to click all borders and then click the font. In Excel, I don't need to do that. I can just click the border and it will work, but you need to make sure that you re-click all borders. Okay, so I'm going to go with the second thickness. Otherwise, I think it's a bit too thin. It might not look it on your computer screen, but when you print it out, I feel like the borders look a lot thinner on paper. So make sure you do some test prints. If you're going to be making a planner and you're going to print out like 52 copies, for example, for the whole year, make sure that you do a test print first before you go ahead and print all of them. Okay, this is still looking a bit plain, so I'm going to add a little bit of color. So a few ways to add color. You can add a colored background behind the day of the week up the top here. So I'll use these theme colors so we can have the pink, or you could go in reverse and you could change your text color. So let's go text green with a white background, so you can change it that way. I'm going to just zoom in a little bit. You zoom. Normally you can press Control and the plus sign, like Control and like zoom in, or Control and the plus symbol on your keyboard, but it's not, it doesn't really work in Google Sheets for some reason. It does in Excel. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't want to work in Google Sheets. So you have to do it manually and go view zoom in, or you can change it here as well. So the other thing with colors, you can do every second color different, or every third if you want to make it look a bit more unique. So you could go green, green. If you press Control in Excel, I'm hoping it will do it in Sheets. No, it won't. Normally you can select multiple text at once, but it won't let me. So free software does have some limitations. Let's go with this teal color. So you can see you can make every second color different. That's another way to incorporate some color in it. If you are going to do this colored background, which is what I tend to use, I find it stands out a lot more. It's a lot more bold. And if you're going to print this out, I like to color code using different colored pens. So I don't generally do this style, because then it kind of blends with all of what I've written, and I like my headings or my title to look different. I like to do a white font with a colored background. You can see that just stands out a lot more to me than these two. So you can change all your colors. I'll change my background here. You'll see a finished example at the end. So I'll just try and quickly pick some colors. Green. And you can also change the color of your writing space down below here. So if you're going to do that, I tend to try and choose the same color that I've already picked, and then I just choose a lighter shade. So if you want to do that, let's go with this green, for example. Oops, I hit the font color. So we want the fill color, not the font color. I'll change that back to white. And then with all of these selected, so left click and drag, it's not terribly obvious when you've got a color selected, but on the white background you can see the blue shaded box. So in this one, we can click on custom, and then it'll come up with the color picker tool. So you might have already seen this before. There's plenty of color tools online that will give you some, like a random color generator, and then you can just type in the 6-digit hex code, which is this up here. It's a bunch of letters and numbers, and then you can exactly color match something. So Design Seeds is my all-time favorite tool for that. So if you're trying to find different colors that work well together, it will take an image and then it will extract out the colors and tell you the hex codes for you. You can also use this color picker tool thing here in Google Sheets, where you can just left click and move your, left click and hold your mouse down and then drag it around, or you can change the hue over here. So if my color, for example, was this blue for my title up the top here, I would just drag it over here and pick a lighter shade, and then it will coordinate a lot nicer. That is actually probably a bit darker than I would go, because when you print it out and you want to write on it, especially if you're using black pen, it can be a bit harder to see. So try and choose something light like this, kind of like a pastel, just like I did in this example here. You can see that I had the darker green and then I had a lighter shade, and it just works and looks really good if you do it in columns that way. It also helps as well if you're doing it in hourly or half hourly, just to signify when the next hour time slot starts, because if it's all in white, then you're trying to get your finger and you're going across which one is which. So if you're going to do vertical hourly, I recommend shading the lines in these different colors. Okay, so we've done the most of it. Oh, the to-do boxes, that's what I needed to show you. So in Google Sheets, it has a handy tool where you can go insert and then checkbox, which is very handy if you're going to print it out and write on it. However, it has a con. If you try and type in here, if you're keeping this digital on your computer and you put whatever text that you want, it's going to actually remove the checkbox. So if you want a checkbox and then text, you would need to create another column, and then you would need to merge cells together, and it just gets kind of really clunky. So if you're going to do digital, I would not put the checkboxes in there. Only do that if you're going to print your planner out at the end. So once you've created one, you don't need to click in the next box and go insert checkbox, which takes forever. You can just copy and paste it down. So if you click on this cell of what you want to copy, you can do this with anything as well, not just the checkboxes. If you press Control-C on your keyboard, left-click and drag down to all the other cells that you want to have it, and then press Control-V, and you can see that it's already aligned it to the left, which is good. The height, see how this one is a bit fatter than these? It's just because of my text. I'm going to fix that because I'm going to actually merge these together, and I'm going to put my text on the side as well. So if we go merge vertically, and then I want to change my font direction, which should be this one here, and I also want to align it to the center and then also to the middle. And then we have our to-do box, and you can see that now all of these rows are the same height, and we can just Control-C and then the whole way across, Control-V. If you want to do something different for your weekend, maybe you don't want to do an hourly schedule like that, maybe you just leave blank lines, or you could add the checkboxes there as well, up to you. You can also, for me, I prefer more space on Saturday and Sunday, so you can change the column width of these two. If you just left click and drag and then pull that over, you can make your weekend boxes a bit bigger if you need a bit more room to write, or if you know that Wednesday is a really busy day, you can make that column a bit wider if you want to. What else did I want to show you? Oh yes, so if you want to add something a bit different, some like design elements, you can add graphics. So if you have some clip art, like PNG, make sure you choose PNG because that has a transparent background. If you pick a JPEG, it has a white background. And if you place that over anything else on your design, it's going to override it. So it would delete out the border and it would show this awkward white box around it. So make sure if you're going to use clip art, you get a PNG file. You get heaps on Etsy, and if you just Google it, there's tons of graphics. To insert one, you would go insert image, and then you would just find it in your computer. You can do this image in cell, but it's a bit clunky, and I don't really like using it, to be honest. So I would go image over cells. You can also do a drawing. So if you wanted to add a little label box up the top, we go text box, just left click and drag, and then you can type whatever you want. So like week of, and you can add colored backgrounds to that. So if we went blue and then I want my text to be white, you can change the size of the box. There is also the shapes tool. So if you don't want a rectangle box, which is what by default it will do when you choose text box. You would need to make a shape first. So let's go rounded rectangle. And then over the top of that you would add your text box and go week of. If you press Control A, it will highlight all of your text in that text box. You don't need to have to go like left click and drag, which takes longer. Just Control A is a lot quicker. Change it to white, make that a bit bigger, and then you can do all your center align and everything else that you want to do. Let's actually make that like 30. You can also change the box border. So I've got my fill color, which is actually quite a yucky color. Let's go for something that's even worse. That'll do. And then we can go with a border. I usually tend to use a darker shade of the same, I guess like column here. It just seems to work better. You can also add your own custom colors, just like I showed previously. You can do your different outer borders. So we've got a dashed line there. And you can also increase the thickness so it looks a bit bigger. I'm just going to delete that one out and then hit save and close. And then now I can move this all as one piece. And the reason I deleted out that other text box was because then you wouldn't be able to move it. You'd have like two awkward shapes. So it's just do one when you do insert drawing, and then if you wanted to add something else, you would do insert drawing again and just keep them separate. If we left click and drag in, we can have this box up the top. If you didn't want to have just a week of, put a box, you could add a pattern behind there if you go insert image. So if you've seen a digital paper that you like, you can add that in and add that as a background up the top. The only issue with this drawing thing, it's very clunky, a lot more clunky than in Excel, and you have to double left click, then you have to come in here and modify your changes. So if I made this text black, for example, and then you have to hit save and close in order to see the update. Then it can also change your size. You have to resize it down. So to be honest, I don't recommend using it. It's clunky and it's time consuming and I don't like it. So that's what I think. Definitely Excel is better in that aspect. So you can change your row heights. I think I already showed that previously, but just in case. If you have multiple lines of text, so when I set this up, remember I aligned everything to the center in the column. If you didn't want that, you can move certain elements. So if I want all of my timed schedules to go aligned to the left, you just left click and drag to select them all and then choose that alignment from the menu. The other option that's really good to select, especially if you're going to be writing a lot and you need multiple lines, is the wrap text function. I can find it quick in Excel, but in here it's a bit more difficult to find. Where is it? Format, text wrapping, and then click wrap. And then if you've got a lot of text, so if I just go type here, and I just type that a whole bunch of times, you can see that it's pushed them down to the next line, like it's created two rows instead of stuff getting cut off. And the other thing, if you've got a big box like this, I don't like it to sit down the bottom. I want it to align to the top. So just go to vertical align and click that one and it will move your text up to the top. I think it looks a lot better than if it's sitting down awkwardly at the bottom of the box. So that is it for this video. I hope it was helpful. I hope the audio was better. You do have this finished example if you want to replicate it. And don't forget, you can change the colors and your font style and everything. I think I showed the font style. If not, up here, if you click the drop down arrow, you can choose from a whole bunch that they have in here already. You can also click more fonts. And if there's a font that you've seen on the internet, like Font Zone, Dafont, there's heaps of font websites. I'll have a link down below. You can just type it in here and then it'll show up in the menu down here and you can select it. You can also add them to my fonts, which you probably saw over the side here. There's some that I've used recently, just for quick reference. As for any other customization, to be honest, there's not really much more you can do in Google Sheets. It can be a bit limiting. The main things you can do are the colors, the font style, the font size. You could do two different fonts. You could have one font at the top here and then a different one down the side. If you want to change all of your fonts at once instead of going like this and then pressing Control and then selecting that, if you just click this box up here, it will select everything in your spreadsheet and then you can change it all at once. So you can see it was a lot quicker. It will just do the update for me. That's one other thing. Be careful with certain fonts like this one here. It's gone very close together, the letters. So some of them you might need to take bold off if they're already a bold font style themselves. That's probably the rare instance where I don't recommend using bold, is if you already have a clunky font. But a lot of them, like that Kashan script, for example. I think it looks a lot clearer if you add bold. So anyway, experiment. Always do a test print before you're going to do a bulk print if you're setting up a whole planner. After you've printed it out, I recommend putting in a disc binding system. That way you can add and remove and rearrange all the pages. If you want to print this, you go to File, and then there's a print button here. You can also go share. So the main pro of using Google Sheets is that you can share this with anyone, and you can also log in from any device. So if you have an iPad, you can just go onto Google Sheets, log into your account, and this spreadsheet will be here. You don't have to be on your computer. You can access it from multiple devices, and if you change it, it will live update it. So when you come back to your computer, the update will show on here as well. You can also share it with other people. So if you want to send this schedule to your partner so they know what you're doing, or so they can add their own things in there, you can do that too. And if you want to keep this as a template and then add your different items for the week, so remember I was talking about that earlier, if you right click and then go duplicate, you can do that. Some other things that are handy to make other than a weekly planner: you could do a checklist, so you've got the checkboxes here. You could do a pre-filled cleaning schedule. You could do a monthly calendar. The tutorial for that is down below. You could do like a monthly task list. You could do a habit tracker. There's so many things that you can make in Google Sheets. Pretty much anything you can do in Excel. Just keep in mind it might be a little bit longer just because some of the menus in Google Sheets are a bit more clunky to use. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any comments or questions, just leave them down below.